The big news this past week is that Rockstar are increasing prices of a handful of vehicles in GTA Online, some by quite a bit. In this video, I wanted to go over, out of those vehicles that are getting increased prices, which ones do you need to buy before they get increased? You only have a handful of days left, April 27th. So when I'm making this video, that's about a little over a week remaining before these price hikes go into effect. And hopefully at the end of this video, you'll know which particular vehicles you want to buy before the prices and then which ones you can just ignore. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the video. Here is a list of the vehicles getting a price increase. There's a handful of them here. There's actually some that are also getting a price decrease. I went over all of them in a video. You can check that out at the top right. We'll also go into specific prices here when we go into the specific vehicles. But out of these vehicles that are getting a cost increase, the ones you can just completely scratch off because they're just not that good. The Granger 3600 LX, it's getting a 45% price increase, which is just ridiculous. It's an SUV. All it is an armored SUV. I'm not talking about that because it's not worth it. The Champion is another one. It was mid before. Now it's going to be even more mid because it's costing you an additional 25% of your money. The ones we're going to take a look at in this video are the Akula, the Ramjet, the Deluxe, of course, the Oppressor Mark II, the Toreador, and the weaponized Ignis. And we'll just start with the Akula. So this one's going from $3.7 million to $4.5 million, which is a pretty decent price increase. This is a vehicle that if it's not super high on your list of like things you could probably end up skipping, I would say for sure this is more of a luxury pick. It's definitely more of a niche pick. I mean, for PvE sort of stuff, if you have a Buzzard or a Sparrow, that's all you're going to need for that. Of course, the Akula has the stealth mode. That's probably the only reason you would want to buy this vehicle, is to not show up on the radar. There's a couple of situations where if you have cops on you when you go into stealth mode, it'll automatically decrease the wanted level to 2 stars, which could be useful, but again, only in like limited situations. There are no countermeasures, which makes it a pretty big negative with all the other vehicles in the game having homing missiles on them. So it can tank, I think, like 3 of those homing missiles, but really that's not a lot when people can just spam the missiles and then you can just get blown up. So no countermeasures is a pretty big negative. It does have unlimited missiles if that's something, you know, that you need. It has bombs as well. Like, it's got some pretty good weaponry on it. I believe it's also a 4-seater helicopter, which is pretty nice. And I believe it's also one of the fastest helicopters in the game. I think it's top 3. So it's not a bad helicopter, and it looks phenomenal. Like, it looks amazing when you're flying it, especially in stealth mode. But realistically, if you get a Sparrow, that's probably all you need. The Sparrow has countermeasures. You can call it instantly. It spawns right next to you because unfortunately the Akula here, it spawns in like places around the map, not right next to you. The Sparrow also has missiles that you can spam. So the Akula, it's good, but realistically, you probably don't need it. You're probably not going to find yourself using it that often. I would say only get this vehicle if you were really, really wanting that stealth mode. The next one, the Scramjet. There's not really a whole bunch to say about this particular vehicle, apart from it's just fun. And thankfully, it's not getting a huge price increase. It's only going from $3.5 million to $4 million. So that's really not that big of a deal. This is one you could probably just wait like until you have enough money to just waste basically on a vehicle. The Scramjet isn't going to help you with any missions. It's not going to help you in PvP. It's not going to help you against griefers. I've said it before. The only purpose of the Scramjet is you jump up into the air, you hit the boost button, and hope you don't land in a freaking swimming pool and ruin your car. It's fun for that, but that's kind of all it is. It does have good missile tracking. I believe it's one of the best missiles in the game as far as tracking, but it has no armor. It blows up in 1 missile. It's not really that great, again, for like PvP sort of stuff. Even for missions, it's not great because it's a convertible, so the NPCs can just shoot you out of it. So this is a vehicle that if you want to save 500K and you just have like $100 million, sure, go for it. But I would probably, I'd just save your money. Until you have literal hundreds of millions, you could probably skip it. The next one, the Deluxo. Now this one's getting a pretty big increase. It's going from 4.7 mil to 5.7 mil. And I'm gonna be honest, at that 4.7 mil, I think it's kind of mid. 5.7 mil, Rockstar, you're a little crazy. This is a vehicle I would 100% skip. The only good part is that it's a flying car. But if you have a helicopter, if you have the Oppressor Mark II, there's literally no reason to get the Deluxo. It does have good missiles, but there are other vehicles in the game, like the Toreador, which is a vehicle we'll take a look at here in a second, also has those same good missiles. And the Toreador has armor, and it can go underwater, and it has boost. The Deluxo has none of that. All it does is fly. Has no countermeasures. You can get blown up with one missile pretty easily. So it's, again, not useful for like PvP or anything. A very niche use for the Deluxo is if you're doing certain missions where you need an NPC to like come with you into your vehicle. You of course can't do that on Oppressor Mark II. The Deluxo is pretty good for that because you can fly around. It does make things slightly quicker to get around the map. The unfortunate part is flying, you are very slow. The car is actually faster on the ground than it is flying. So it's really not even that good performance-wise when you're talking about flying around the map. I mean, look, it's the DeLorean, so obviously there's some fun stuff there in the looks department. It looks great, but $5.7 million, that is an absurd amount of money for what you're actually getting with this particular vehicle. Again, I just want to reiterate, and it's kind of like the Scramjet, unless you have, you know, tons and tons of money, 4.7 million before the price increases for just a vehicle, a car that can fly. I do not think that is worth it. I guess it is subjective though. Maybe you guys, some of you guys would want it, and you might want to pick one up before the price changes. The next one, the Oppressor Mark II. I'm not going to spend too much time in this. We've talked about this one a ton of times. It's getting an absurd price increase. It's going from like 3.9 million to $8 million. That's a $100 IRL shark card car or vehicle. It is great for a number of things. It's probably one of the most useful vehicles in the game. If you do not have one, I would pick one up. Even though Rockstar has sort of nerfed it a lot over the last couple of months, it's still very good. You can call it instantly, of course, through the interaction menu if you have an MC club. It has pretty good missiles. It's got the chafe or the flares, the countermeasures. I mean, you can just fly around the map, and it does actually go a lot faster than the Deluxo, so it's pretty quick getting around the map. It's just overall good, and I would definitely, even if you can't afford a nightclub or a Toreador or the Terabyte to put the missiles on it, just buy one before the price increases to 8 million and just stash it in your garage, and then over time you can get the money to get all the missiles and all the other performance bonuses. But just pick one up if you want a super useful vehicle. Yeah, it's gonna suck spending like $4 million, but that's gonna be way better than waiting and then spending 8 million in a couple of months when you think you need it. Then that brings us to the Toreador. This is a vehicle which is actually going to be an interesting one. I want to do a specific Toreador versus Stromberg video because they are very similar vehicles, and with this price increase, it's going to make some pretty good arguments for the actual Stromberg and not this Toreador. It is going from 3.6 million to 4.2 million. Not the biggest increase, but still a good chunk of change. The Toreador is probably the best vehicle for free mode. It is insanely fast because of the quick recharge boost. It does have unlimited missiles, which is great. And the missiles, like I mentioned with the Deluxo, are very good at tracking. They're not the top tier. I think they're second tier, better than the Oppressor Mark II. They are very good. Basically, if you're trying to hit something, more than likely it's going to hit it. It can tank about 5 missile and RPG shots, so it's pretty good armor-wise. It can go underwater. If you're trying to escape people, if you're trying to escape cops, just go underwater. Literally boost until you get to the ocean, go underwater, and then you're basically safe. If you are underwater, if you have the sonar in your Kasaka, you actually can use the sonar upgrade in the Toreador here, which allows you to find the hidden caches around the map. It's not the biggest of things, but it's kind of a cool little thing if you like exploring under the water. I would say this is probably my favorite Oppressor Mark II hunter. If there's a griefer on an Oppressor Mark II in my lobby, this is the vehicle I go with because it's just very easy to kill those people. The one negative to this, and this is something Rockstar changed a couple of months ago, you cannot use this for missions or heists anymore. It was a fantastic deal when you could, use it for those because it's great for NPC and PvE work. Now it isn't. So this is a vehicle that if you want to use it for free roam, definitely pick one up before the price changes. If you have other vehicles for free roam, you could probably end up skipping it. Like, it's fun, it is good, but if you are a PvE person and you're trying to use a particular vehicle for missions, you can't do that with this vehicle anymore, which does make it a little bit annoying. And 3.6 million is definitely a lot of money for something that is pretty specific just to free roam. So if you're on a tight budget, then yeah, you could probably skip this one before the price increases, but it is a fantastic vehicle and it is very useful in only free mode. So if that excites you, if that is something that you're interested in, definitely pick one up before the price goes up. And then the final vehicle, unfortunately, I don't have too much gameplay of it because, well, it's not out on PC. I play on PC, so you're just going to see some gameplay, I think, of someone racing the weaponized Ignis. On the new consoles, this is probably one of the better vehicles to have. I actually believe it's the fastest HSW vehicle in the game on the new consoles. If you want a super fast supercar that, you know, has good performance, handles well, looks great, then the weaponized Ignis is definitely something you probably want to pick up. It has a Mani tech, which means no one can lock onto you, so it's a great vehicle for free roam. None of the Oppressor Mark II people, or I guess jet griefers if they're using the missiles, or helicopter griefers if they're using the missiles, can lock onto you and can take you out. It unfortunately does not have armor, so that's probably the one big negative. One missile, if they do somehow hit you, you will blow up. Also, if you're blowing up other NPC vehicles or just other vehicles, you gotta be careful because if the vehicle blows up next to you, it will blow up your vehicle as well. I think this is a pretty good vehicle for playing solo, and I would say, sort of unlike the Toreador, if you do play missions, this might be one of the best vehicles for missions. Like I mentioned, it's fast, so you can get around pretty quick. It has a machine gun on the top, which isn't the best, but it's pretty good. You are limited in a field of view, but it is pretty good in blowing up other NPC vehicles in those missions. There is no missiles, which I guess is the negative or a negative. In free roam, it doesn't actually have a special blip, so people won't really know where you're driving until you're right on top of them, which is very useful. You unfortunately cannot also drive it in passive mode, which makes sense as a weaponized vehicle. Now, this one, I don't think I mentioned it. It's getting a pretty big price increase from 3.2 million to 4.5 million. This is a vehicle, if you do not own one and any of that stuff sounds interesting, pick it up because that's a big price increase. 1.25-ish million of a price increase. That's a lot. And this weaponized Ignis is probably one of the most useful vehicles now in the game on the new consoles. It's good for free roam, it's good for missions, it's fast in races, and it can't get locked onto. Like, that just checks off all the boxes almost. So I would highly recommend picking one of these weaponized Ignises up if you do not have one before the price increases on April 27th. So those were the vehicles. Let me know in the comments if you guys disagree or agree with any of the stuff I mentioned. If you want to bring up any other good points of any of these vehicles, let us know. But hopefully you guys take advantage of this limited window before the prices go up. Thankfully, Rockstar did give us a 2-week sort of gap between them announcing the prices going up and then the prices actually going up. So you have about maybe 10-ish more days, 9-ish more days to get the money to buy some of these vehicles. I would say a quick summary out of all the vehicles we mentioned, the only two that are probably 100% worth getting, the weaponized Ignis and the Oppressor Mark II. The other ones are all very situational now, so I would probably just try and get the two there. Thank you guys for watching. That's gonna do it for today's video. Please drop it a like if you did enjoy, subscribe for more GTA content, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.